Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with another slightly different transfer talk special this time where we take a bit of a deeper dive into some of the players that are linked with Aston Villa and also some players that are on Gareth's radar that he thinks might be of use to Villa as well. So make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We are well past 5,000 subscribers, almost at 5,100 now, on the road to 10k. So like, subscribe, and get your comments in. So, Gareth, how you doing, mate? Good to see you again.
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, good. Thanks. Yeah, it's nice to see you as well. And nice to be chatting after another win as well.
Exactly. Yes, through in the FA Cup, Tottenham to come. So we'll see how we go about that. Lots of games in between. But before we get right into some of the players that Villa have been linked to and some that you think could be useful to Villa, Danielle Marlon, as we speak, is apparently agreed deal in principle somewhere in the region of 20 to 25, 22 to 25 million euros plus add-ons. We featured him on the last transfer talk special with yourself, and I've obviously spoken about him on various roundup shows. But good signing to get over the line and a potential opportunity for him to kind of rekindle, relight his career.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like I said, we spoke on before, didn't we? And we said about if you can get him for 18 million, just round about that sort of thing. And at 22, he's not too bad. I don't think makes sense for both clubs. Like you say, he wants to reignite his career. We need that attacking player. And it works out well for all parties. Something like that done in January, I think.
Definitely. Now, obviously, we've also been linked with one or two other players that we're going to feature now. The one who is really high up on the list apparently is Oscar Mingueza. Talk of us wanting to meet the clause, the 20 million euro release clause, one saying that we hadn't yet done anything with it. And now it looks like we are going to step up the interest in him. So just talk to us a little bit about him. If I bring his bar chart up, what are we expected to see from someone like Mingueza?
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of Celta Vigo, I've got to be honest. But since this has been talked about for the last couple of weeks, I've sort of done a bit of a dive into him and into his data. And yeah, he's a real attack-minded fullback, much more attack-minded than what Matty Cash would be. Let's say, for example, defensively, he's caught a few times, not as reliable defensively as what we probably like. However, going forward, he offers a great deal. You know, really loads of crosses into the penalty area, loads of sort of assists as well, shot creating action. So offensively, he really does fit the bill for us.
Yeah, and then the strengths in terms of his radar, anything to really talk about here.
Well, I think this just backs up what I was just saying. Basically, you know, the attack-minded sort of stuff that he can carry the ball really well. He's the top-ranked fullback, by the way, for expected threat in La Liga this season so far. So just goes to show you that from passing and from carries, he really can sort of provide a high expected threat number. I think it's like 0.24 for the season so far. So he's doing really well. And they've obviously highlighted him sort of, you know, just for being Spanish as well, would fit sort of Unai Emery's sort of liking of him a great deal. And yeah, attack minded, really will sort of gets forward really well, creates a lot defensively. Like I say, possibly a bit wanting a little bit at times, but I can see why they've looked at him.
Yeah, I mean, you could maybe see that kind of Boubacar Kamara position rekindling with, say, a Mingueza bombing down the right and Kamara dropping in properly to support in terms of giving him that defensive cover.
I think that's exactly what he wants to do. I think we saw that worked quite well, didn't it, when they tried it before? And again, we went away from that a little bit. But yeah, that worked really well. You're going to need an extra man in midfield if you're going to do that, of course, like we did before. But Kamara's more than capable of doing that. Looks to regain his fitness, looks sharp, looks good on the ball. Created a lot against West Ham, by the way. So they're going to need that sort of setup. And I think that's probably the way he wants to go.
Yeah. Now today we've seen another link to another highly rated defender, Loic Bade, and I quickly message you say, can we add him into the analysis? So yeah, anything to report on him? Because I think Liverpool have been interested in him, and Villa now trying to steal a bit of a march on potentially getting him.
Yeah, Bade, just 24 years old. You know, I mean, you're probably looking at the best part of 25 to 30 million, possibly more, to get him over the line. For me, yeah, he's a safe option as a centre half. I think not as progressive passing. If you're looking for a sort of a right-sided Pau Torres, because Bade plays as a right centre back most of the time, you're not going to get that with him. You know, he's strong in the air. He's more a Tyrone Mings sort of model, if you like, if you want to go down that road, but sort of slightly better on the ball. But yeah, defensively sound, really solid, ranks really highly for possession adjusted tackles and everything else. Doesn't carry the ball particularly well, can commit a few too many fouls, and can dwell on the ball a little bit. He's a decent option.
Sounds like sounds like an actual uh, the same as the defender that we're trying to get rid of in Diego Carlos. He sounds very similar.
Yeah, I'm surprised at this link. I've got to be honest. I think he's a good centre half. He's a solid option, but there are similarities there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now moving on to kind of, I guess one or so have probably been linked with us in the past, but more ones that you've identified and some that you've been asked to look at. So first one we're going to look at is Paul Nebel. Now again, I don't know too much about him, but talk to us about him and what he might be able to bring to Villa.
Yeah, attacking midfielder from Mainz. He's on loan, and this was suggested. One of these players was actually highlighted to me by someone on a tweet I put out on Twitter a few weeks back, and sort of looked into him quite a bit and looked at some performances, and he's quite a solid option. I think he would probably be too much of a risk for an Emery coming in, but he's a goal threat. He can cross the ball well. But what I like about him the most is he works hard defensively. So he will do that Morgan Rogers role better in defensive, and Jacob Ramsey in defensive output. The radar's not looking so great here, I grant you that. But really, you know, sort of quite a young lad and one for the future. I wonder if they might look at him. It's just an option. It's just something else that's different. Can take a really good set piece as well, by the way, which is what I liked him, and holds on to the ball really well. And like I say, generally works really hard, box to box. I liked him.
Excellent, yeah. And you know what Unai Emery's like. We've mentioned Morgan Rogers there with polishing rough diamonds. You saw that on the radar in terms of strengths that you've identified: set piece taker, finishing, creative passing, ball retention, and defensive contribution. So it's quite a lot to work with there.
Yeah, definitely. And I like I say, I didn't know much about him. I'd heard the name, but I didn't know much about him. And like I say, it was suggested to me. So I look at him and yeah, quite impressed with him, to be honest. I just think he's probably a bit too much of a risk to come into the Villa squad at the moment.
Sure. And then another one we're looking at is a player called Vanderson, Vanderson de Oliveira Campos to be exact. Might come across him next week when we play against Monaco. A fullback here. What do you think he would do differently to Mingueza, let's say?
It's just really reliable. Vanderson is really reliable. Another right back who can really sort of get forward. And this is where we see an upgrade, if you like, on the players that we talked about earlier, you know, and this is what you need from him, sort of thing. He's a bit of a different option to Mingueza, provides a lot more sort of defensive stability as well as being able to go forward. He's quick, he works really hard, and he's played in the Champions League, so he's got really decent experience. This was another player, by the way, that I knew about him, but it was suggested to me as well, and really impressed with him defensively, but quick, can get up and down really well, supports play really well, carries the ball really well as well, by the way, and can cross the ball reasonably well as well, even though I've done that as a weakness there. But the ones that I saw of him, he's sort of delivery and his ability to do so were good. He just didn't do it enough.
Sure. So definitely one for us to look out for next week when we play Monaco then.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons why I sort of wanted to do him as well, because I think we'll be seeing a bit of him. So let's see what people think.
Yeah. And then another one to sort of watch out for is a player that you've mentioned called Takefusa Kubo from Real Sociedad, another attacking midfielder. Again, someone that maybe one or two clubs are looking at. What do you notice with him?
Yeah, almost a bit like a Lee Kang-Ging Mark II, if you like. He is going to be that good. Kubo really is a top player, and he's only young. He's going to get better. He's playing for Real Sociedad. He was on loan at Real Madrid as well at some point, so you're going to see hear a lot about him, I think, in coming future. But another player for me that I would really like to see at Villa Park. Probably the one out of everyone we're going to look at, because his ability, nippy to carry the ball. Think of Mitoma, the dribbling sort of style that we see there. Really busy player, energetic, gets up and down the pitch really well, and provides a fair bit of expected threat from his passing and his ball carrying as well. And what I really liked about him for Sociedad is that he's played in a lot of different positions in different formations, and that was really something that I highlighted, because playing in the he doesn't play in a back four, but he plays in a system with a back four, so he's used to having other midfielders in and around him.
Yeah, and you've put their strengths: high press, dribbling, crossing, finishing, creativity, and drawing fouls. So, yeah, pretty decent strengths there to be working with as well.
Yeah, he works really hard. When I've watched a lot of Sociedad, and he works really, really hard. There's a lot of these sort of players that are coming in and around that could sort of make the step up, but whether clubs do take a risk on him, I don't know.
Well, that's really good. And then finally, one I think who could be available for, I guess, a cheap option, if you like, but has got Premier League experience, has been touted as a Villa target or someone that we should be going for, and that's Kyle Walker-Peters. He's under contract. I think it runs out at the end of this season. Could you see potentially Aston Villa, or are we beyond that sort of level nowadays?
I don't know. I think this is the fourth transfer window that me and you have talked about him on this pod. I just think he would be an option. I think Unai Emery could get more out of him. I think he's been stunted a little bit by playing in weaker sides who were struggling. I would really like to see him at Villa Park. The only difference is I think he needs to put on a bit of weight. I think he's a little bit sort of lightweight for me, which you don't get with Matty Cash, of course. But again, it brings a lot of options offensively in situations where you can play in different formations. He can cross the ball reasonably well, can carry the ball really well defensively. All right, we could say he's a bit suspect, but if we put him in a top side and with a top manager, could we get that little bit more out of him? Possibly.
Yeah. I don't know. I think now I think Leicester are potentially interested in him, but I do think there will be more clubs interested. But whether he's, without being snobbish, whether he's at the level of Aston Villa now, maybe 2 or 3 years ago he would have been, but I'm not sure now.
No, I totally agree. I think, looking at sort of he has the data and the stats suggest he has regressed a little bit, but that's because he has been in struggling sides. I think you're probably right. I think we can probably do better now.
Well, look, it's really good to kind of take a look at these players, and you can also form an opinion of, or an image of where you see them fitting, and that kind of attacking midfield. We know we need right back, we know we need probably centre back options, and we know we need wing options. Now it looks like MALEN is coming in to solve that. It looks like we've got options at right back, but that attacking midfield, that creative midfielder, that's still an area where you may be looking at. That's maybe one for the summer, though.
Yeah, I mean, what the issue is, you want competition in squads, and you want Morgan Rogers and Jacob Ramsey to be put under pressure. Is Emi Buendia the person to do that? Probably not. We could probably say, as much as we love him, he's probably not. So you need competition, because Morgan Rogers knows he's going to start most games. He knows that. So you've got to provide that little bit of competition. Personally, I'd like to see sort of a little bit more width. Can we get a traditional winger type thing, almost to complement Bailey on the other side, maybe? And I think that's probably where players like Kubo and that come in.
Yeah. Just before we finish up, obviously MALEN looks like it's going to be done, but I was talking yesterday on my roundup that the rumours on Mawani, the rumours on Chukwueze haven't necessarily gone anywhere. So do you feel like MALEN will be signed and that'll be it for the attacking wide options, or could you potentially see another forward player who can play wide coming in as well, if it can be done?
Yeah, I think this is probably one for the summer. I think the centre forward options are probably one for the summer. I don't think anybody's going to make a bid, as suggested, for Ollie Watkins or John Duran in January. I don't think Unai Emery and Monchi are going to let our two centre forwards go in January to get one in. Is impossible almost. So, yeah, I mean, wide options, I think that's probably about it. I think we need to strengthen elsewhere, and I think the rest is probably going to be for the summer. But I can't see Chukwueze coming out of Milan, and I can't see Kolo Muani coming to Villa from from PSG. I think he's Manchester United bound probably at some point, but I don't see them two coming to Villa Park.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. It sounds about right. Wicked, a brilliant analysis, Gareth, yet again. And I know you put this out on socials, and I know you've done a few of these radars and bar charts already, but later on you'll probably put them out. So where can people find you, and where can people ask for any other players to be analysed as well?
Yeah, so at One Villa Analysis or at that Garate JC, all the vids that we've put on here is going to be on later, and I'll put the link to the pod so we can you can discuss it amongst yourselves.
Perfect, mate. And we'll be back profiling more players throughout this window as well, commenting on any more that Villa sign as well, I'm sure. And I'll be back with transfer roundups. Obviously, if more developments come with Danielle Marlon, it looks like it's been agreed in principle, but we'll wait until he's holding that shirt. So, yeah, potential more shows later on this afternoon, this evening. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Fans Forum / Everton preview to come as well this week. So loads more shows. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, help us continue to grow way beyond that 5K on the road to 10K. Thank you for watching, and as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.